This is the Uptick Network Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Penny stock news and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a very exciting guest with us. He is the president and CEO of Viking Investments. His name is Jim Doris. They trade on the OTC peak sheets under the ticker symbol VKIN. Jim, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Give me a little bit of a background of yourself and a little background of the company, and then I want to get into the Q&A.
Sure. Well, personally, professionally, I'm a corporate commercial lawyer. I have been for over 15 years, and I decided a few years ago I wanted to invest in the oil and gas business as a result of introductions that were made to me through various colleagues and contacts, and I spent considerable time, researching the industry and recognizing my limitations. I knew it was critical for me to establish relationships with industry experts, so I spent time doing that, and I'm fortunate enough to develop relationships with a handful of people with considerable experience in the energy sector, focusing primarily on oil and gas. And together, collectively, we've established a very comprehensive acquisition and growth strategy and to consolidate assets in North America, focusing initially in the U.S. and mid-continent region. And we're using Viking as the vehicle to facilitate those investments.
Relatively speaking, oil prices have been low, probably a little bit south of $50 a barrel. What is Viking's focus during this period of time?
Well, the sharp decline in oil prices over the last several months has created really an unprecedented time to make acquisitions. Our initial focus, as I mentioned earlier, are to acquire producing assets, primarily in the mid-continent region, with low lifting costs and development potential, with predictable results. We're not into speculative drilling or wildcatting. We're looking at assets that have current cash flows or cash flow positive at today's oil prices with a predictable upside, where in certain areas we know there's oil in place already. It's just a matter of deploying capital and getting the oil out of the ground and not looking for the home run, I guess is the common phrase.
You guys own some oil and gas leases in Alberta, Kansas, and Missouri. How do you find undiscovered properties? What is your process?
Well, essentially, the competitive advantage that we have, it's really our human capital. It's the combination of the business acumen and sophistication of our management team and stakeholder group, including some key shareholders of the company. With their, they on a private basis have made several investments in the oil and gas space over the last few decades, and we're able now, as stakeholders of Viking, we're able to leverage their relationships, and which are now giving Viking preferred access to premier investment opportunities in the space. So we're seeing deals as a result of those relationships before, in some cases, before any company in the United States. So it's the ability to look at qualified deals quickly and make determinations and decisions before the opportunities are marketed widely.
My guest today is Jim Doris. He is the president and CEO of Viking Investments Group. They trade on the OTC peak sheets under the ticker symbol VKIN. Jim, take us through the process for myself and the listeners out there. And you don't have to get over, valued into the whole process, but take us through the process. Once you find a property, you do what?
Well, it's really a team approach where when we're presented with an opportunity, we have our team that takes a look at it, and that consists of our petroleum engineer, maybe a geologist, our oil and gas group, that our landman, and everyone takes a look at it from their own particular perspective and discipline, and then everyone provides their individual input, and then we meet as a team to discuss, the pros, the cons, and whether it fits it within our model. And we're not interested in doing deals just for the sake of doing deals. They have to be the right one. And I think this requires a lot of discipline, because there's a lot of opportunities out there right now. There's a lot of companies in distress. And so there's a lot in the marketplace. So you have to be really disciplined in your approach and try not to deviate from your entire investment philosophy and core model.
Jim, there's a lot of companies in this space that's looking for oil and gas. What is Viking's competitive advantage over the other ones?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's really the relationships of our management team and stakeholder group that they're well connected, not only in the United States but Canada as well. And those relationships have allowed us, have created windows of opportunity and open doors that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. And as I mentioned, we're seeing deals before, even though we're just microcap company listed in the OTC Pink, we're seeing deals before any other company in the United States in many cases. So it's those relationships add a lot of value to what we're trying to accomplish.
I want to talk a little bit briefly about your balance sheet. I think I read a couple of weeks ago, you guys got rid of some debt. You cleaned up the balance sheet. Can you extrapolate a little bit on that?
Yeah, the particular transaction that you're referring to, we had borrowed a relatively small amount of money for working capital purposes toward the end of last year, and those notes were coming due in May. And it was important because the notes had a convertible feature allowing the note holders to convert the debt to equity for what we wanted to accomplish in the immediate long term. We didn't want those notes converting, so we raised some money to pay those notes out to avoid any conversion issues and disruptions in the capital structure of the company, which was extremely positive. And just prior to that, we borrowed money to facilitate an acquisition of working interests in various leases in Kansas and Missouri.
So you guys don't have any toxic debt on the books?
No, it's totally eliminated.
That's awesome. That is outstanding. My guest today is Jim Doris. He is the president and CEO of Viking Investments Group. They trade on the OTC market, ticker symbol VKIN. Where do you see oil prices for the balance of the year going, Jim?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that's difficult to answer. Everybody in this industry wishes they had the crystal ball to forecast the future pricing. Internally, we do believe that the supply glut that's been talked about for several months, we believe that it's not as big as what people perceive it to be, and in the second half of this year, people will learn that as a result of decline rates in some of the larger shale plays, that the supply glut isn't as big as what we thought. And then there's been some supply disruptions in various countries, Nigeria, Libya, even Canada, Iraq as of late, that impacted that. So we believe that as a result of those factors, that oil prices will increase toward the end of the year, and modestly in 2017. However, despite our belief, we're bullish on the commodity. The deals that we're evaluating now have to work at today's prices.
And going forward, are you going to be doing anything with the gas leases?
In Kansas and
Missouri? Yes.
Yeah, those particular ones, those leases, the production is mainly oil. We don't sell any gas from those leases. But we do have big plans to acquire additional assets in those regions, and then we have, on the existing acreage that we have extreme development potential, and at the appropriate time we intend to implement a very responsible but economical development program.
My guest today is Jim Doris. He is the president and CEO of Viking Investments Group. They trade on the OTC Pink Sheets under the ticker symbol VKIN. They trade around 29 cents a share. In closing, Jim, is there anything that you and I didn't get a chance to talk about that you would like to get out to my listeners?
Well, I just think it's a very exciting time, even though it's been a turbulent time for many oil and gas companies over the last 8 to 12 months. Right now, we're well positioned to implement and execute on our growth strategy, and we have a pretty talented and sophisticated management team. And so we think that we've got a great platform and great things to come.
Viking Investments Group has been our guest today, trading on the OTC Pink Sheets, VKIN, the president and CEO, Jim Doris. Jim, thank you for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. We're going to check back with you in a couple of months.
Thank you very much for your time.